Good afternoon. It's an interesting day today. There are a number of positive things occurring. For one thing, it appears that treatment with one of the newer combination monoclonal antibody therapies is about 70% effective in preventing hospitalization as long as it is applied early. That is a big deal. Both the White House and certain Republican governors are recommending that people who show symptoms, even mild symptoms, go get tested, and they are recommending that those who test positive get monoclonal antibody therapy. Now, the negative to that, of course, is that some of those Republican governors apparently are profiting from the company that produces the therapy. If it saves lives, it saves lives, although we should also be even more strongly pushing vaccination. Other good news, there will be a booster shot. Delta is considerably more communicable than prior variants, so there will be a booster shot which will be available 6 months after your second shot, and that booster shot increases the antibody titer multiple times, many times over. Very effective. It probably indicates that this should have been a 3-shot sequence to begin with, but you know something, as long as it does what it needs to do, I'm happy. So those are good, positive things in the battle against COVID. We have another scientist who has now come out, a major biochemist, has come out and said that, yep, she's examined the material from the newest rover, and she joins the ones who wrote the paper a few months ago in saying there's life already on Mars, at least fungal life. This has resulted, of course, in the usual screaming and yelling, including people demanding that her PhD and her tenure be removed because no good biochemist could believe that there's life anywhere but on Earth, which is stupid. Her PhD is not going anywhere, and tenure is meant to protect academic freedom. That's not going anywhere either. But nevertheless, I was a little bit amused I was pleased to hear what she said and amused to hear what the detractors are now being reduced to. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Extreme skeptics sound exactly like religious fanatics. You believe what they believe, or they will find a way to punish you. And that's really unfortunate, because that's not how science works. But I consider that a bit of positive news as well, that there's another person who is on board with the idea that there's fungal life already there. And it wouldn't surprise me at all. It's very clear that Mars and Venus both at one time were capable of supporting life. And neither can support much life now anymore. And this begs the question, what caused the runaway greenhouse effect on Venus? What caused the loss of atmosphere on Mars? And there are the standard explanations, and then there are real scientists who are routinely coming out and going, no, it's this, and expounding totally different explanations. On a somewhat less positive side, of course, is Afghanistan. And I've just recently had to correct someone who thought our troops abandoned their armaments to the Taliban. Our troops. No. For 20 years, we have been building up the Afghanistani Defense Force on the theory that we would leave and they would be able to protect their country. let's be honest here, there are only 100,000 people in the Taliban. 100,000 fanatics here would end up dead. 100,000 fanatics there, everyone sort of bows down to them. That's unfortunate. It's what it is, and it's exactly what happened. We withdrew in accordance with the timetable that had been set in 2020 by President Trump, that he had publicly announced, and that was all over as this huge diplomatic victory on the Republican websites and so forth. You want to see things pulled down quick? They're gone now, I'll tell you, and they're trying to come up with excuses. But the fact is, he made the agreement. Full faith of the United States of America stood behind that agreement. Biden delayed withdrawing for 3 months, beyond the date that, well, almost 3 months, May 30th to August 20th or 18th or 15th or whatever, 2.5 months. He delayed the final withdrawal. We were already pulling down troops for the last year, more than a year, almost 2 years. He delayed the final withdrawal, which alone stresses when you make an announcement like that, when you send the Secretary of State to negotiate with a foreign power, and you make an announcement of the result, you obey the announcement. So he delayed for 2.5 months, and then we withdrew. And with nary a shot fired, the Taliban took back over. Units of the Afghani Defense Force simply surrendered and handed over their weapons, and handed over their tanks, and handed over the things we'd give them to stop this result. To me, this is a strong indicator that we should never have gone in. We should have bombed the hell out of them, out of their military installations after 9/11, and never have invaded and tried to hold. Because it is very clear that the people whose lives will be upended by this, for whatever reason, even with far better equipment than the Taliban has, with far better support than the Taliban has, were simply not willing to fight. And you can argue that the regime was corrupt, you can argue this, you can argue that, I don't care. The fact of the matter is, though we delayed, we kept our word, and they didn't stand up 2 days. And now it appears, I read in Defense One, that they were making agreements with the Taliban a year ago to surrender as soon as we left. Now, while this does indicate the level of respect the American military is held in, because there were only a few thousand American troops, and they thought, and the Taliban thought pretty clearly, that we would clean their clock if they tried this before we withdrew. I find it atrocious that American citizens would attack our military or our government for keeping an agreement we made, and for other troops from another government surrendering their weapons. And I told the person that, and they seem to have vanished from the conversation. I am terribly sorry about what is happening to the Afghan people, or what will happen to the Afghan people, particularly the women, the gays, anyone who is not, according to this bizarre theology, which none of my Muslim friends understand as being anything resembling authentic. It's worth remembering we have fundamentalist Christians here who are just as far from anything reasonable. And they tried on the 6th of January to gain power. They were a large part of those riots, that insurrection. They failed. They will try again. And their opinion, if you are a woman, or you are gay, or you are not scum, frankly, they will do to you if they have enough power, exactly what the Taliban will do to Afghanistani citizens. Do not, even for a moment, think otherwise. Stand firm for human rights, for democracy, which means counting the votes and obeying them, not trying to find a way around them because you want your guy as dictator. Keep fighting. Have a good day. Be well.